Manjari Chandra, a functional nutritionist who uses ancient Indian wisdom, herbs, and blends it with bioregulatory nutrition medicine and modern science in her practice. She features as an expert on mygovernment.in website promoted by the Prime Minister of India. She's also the author of Eat Up Clean, Clean Up, and Heal with Foods. Today, Manjari ji is with us to shed the light on why most of us are deficit, and what do we do about it. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Karishma. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can. We can.
So, yeah, as you said, Dr. Karishma, for 25 of years, I've been working with hospitals. I still work with Max Hospitals in Delhi as a consultant. And most of the work has been in the IPD settings where we've been working with chronically ill patients. But in the last 4 or 5 years, a group of us started training in something called functional medicine, something that Deepa has already explained in detail. Of course, the power of this form of treatment is extremely high, especially in cardiometabolic conditions, including all forms of neurological disorders, autoimmune conditions, diabetes, heart disease, and so on and so forth. What I'm going to talk about today essentially is that the fact that so much information is really available about nutrition and about the right food to eat. Sometimes conflicting information is available. And I just wanted to sift that and talk about why is it that in spite of all this, we are still nutrient deficient and how that triggers us into so many conditions. I'd like to share my screen. Yeah, just trying to do that. Give me a second, please.
Yes, yes, please take your time.
Can you see my screen now?
No, we cannot.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah. I've also shared the presentation in case I'm not able to present it. So I'll try once more. Otherwise, I'll request you to present, please. I'm unable to present it for some reason. I can. Yeah, sorry for that. Very sorry for that.
Just once. Just give me 1 second.
Not to worry at all. So as Dr. Karishma tries to put the presentation forward, the idea is essentially of this small session today is to bring to our light what is it that causes us to be nutrient deficient. Many times we just talk about, supplementing our diet with lots of proteins and good fats and micronutrients. We know that we are vitamin deficient, mineral deficient, phytochemicals, a lot of polyphenols, a lot of functional parts of food that we're not really eating in sufficient amount. And many times, even if we do consume them through our food, whether our body is able to process, assimilate them is also questionable. So there are multiple layers why we become nutritional deficient. And that is what I'm going to take you through. Another thing about nutritional deficiency is that nutritional deficiencies not only cause micronutrient issues, they also predispose us to various diseases in the body. So I've been writing, in fact, my second book that Rupa Publications, called Heal with Foods, is available across bookstores and e-commerce platforms. And I'm writing my third book on cancer and how not to get cancer really now with Penguin. So let's go ahead with the presentation. Dr. Karishma, I'll have to request you to
Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah. So a lot of us experience a lot of symptoms, but we don't sometimes directly associate it with a micronutrient deficiency. For example, simple things like a skin condition could be a micronutrient deficiency. Presence of acne could be as simple as an omega-3 deficiency. Fatigue that we constantly tend to feel, lethargy, unable to perform, could be magnesium, coenzyme Q10, and many more nutrients that are deficient in our body. Similarly, you'll be surprised to know that so much of pain and discomfort that we feel can be eased to a large extent if we go and correct what is nutritionally deficient in our body. Let's go to the next one. Kindly change the slide, please. So another thing that's very, very common now, especially post-COVID, is a lot of hair loss and hair thinning that people are experiencing. Something that we clinically in our clinics, we get a lot of it in our hospitals and clinics, people coming with severe hair loss and hair thinning, losing hair in bunch. And that also is a lot of micronutrient deficiencies, not only biotin, niacin, but many other amino acids, especially the essential ones, selenium, zinc, iron, folic acid, many of them have a role. Similarly, things like pain and migraine also have a micronutrient component to it. Poor appetite, we know that anemia causes poor appetite, but many other deficiencies also cause poor appetite. You know that something called hyponatremia may cause you to have very low appetite, which is low sodium levels in the body. Frequent infections, poor immunity, which is something that has been talked about a lot in COVID, is also, of course, driven by your micronutrient deficiencies, which you can see here. Let's go to the next slide. Another very important thing, a lot of people feel extremely irritable, mentally depressed, anxious, and that also has to do with your micronutrient status. When you are not consuming enough of certain micronutrients, especially things like omega-3s, things like good fats, then you will not be able to create the right type of neurotransmitters that are required to make you feel good and ecstatic all the time and not feel irritable. Similarly, poor memory, forgetfulness, concentration, these are also driven by micronutrient deficiencies. Another very starking fact that we must acknowledge is that in the last 50, 70 years, our food is no more as nutrient dense as it should have been. So over the years, thanks to the way we've been farming, the way pesticides and insecticides are added to our food, the soil itself is depleted because we're using the soil too frequently and doing something called monoagriculture, which is growing the same crop. That causes the foods, vegetables, and many other grains, cereals, pulses that we consume to become deficient in nutrients. And there are multiple studies. This is one of the very large studies that was done by the University of Texas, which shows that there's so high decline of vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin B, ascorbic acid, and many more. Yes. Okay, so another thing why a lot of us are nutrient deficient is because the food that we eat now is not really how it grows on the farm. When we eat food, or what we put on our table has gone through multiple levels of processing, milling, refining, grinding, drying, pressing. All these things cause these foods to lose a lot of their nutrients, especially fiber, minerals, and vitamins. And now we know that foods can be grouped into minimally processed and ultra processed. What you eat as chips and chocolates and burgers is ultra processed. What you eat as, things like cheese or frozen food is also processed. So whenever a food is put through some form of processing and it changes from its natural form, there is some nutritional loss that happens depending on the process that it has been subjected to. So another reason why we are nutrient deficient is because the food is processed. And processed does not necessarily only mean coming out from a box or a tin or a Tetra Pak.
Thank you.
Even your cereals, your millets, your pulses, your lentils have been put through processing. So one of the other things that we have to look at is start to look for food which has gone through minimal processing to get the right nutrients. Let's go to the next one. So this is typically what happens. We think processing only causes our food to become low in micronutrients, but it causes many other things. For example, there is a change in the texture of the food. There is a change in the matrix of the food. Though there is misalignment of the molecules that make the food itself. There's lower nutritional quality, of course, contact materials, for example, food that is packed in aluminum foils and plastics in packaging that can cause nutritional deficiencies to happen. Then there is a lot of contamination from processing. For example, oats are typically not containing gluten, but because they're processed in the same mills where wheat is processed, they also become, there is a chance that they may have become contaminated with gluten. And so, and there are many other, contaminants that come from processing units on their own, which also include some of these things which are chemicals by nature and can be slightly carcinogenic or nephrotoxic substances. Then there are food additives that industry adds to our food. Everything from emulsifiers, stabilizers, flavor identical substances, artificial colors, sweeteners, things like maltodextrin, class 2 preservatives, all of these are chemicals. And when they're added to our food, not only does it make our food unhealthy, it also depletes the nutritional quality of our food. Another reason why we're also low in micronutrients and specifically good amino acids and polyphenols and phytochemicals is because not only is our food ultra processed, it has been genetically modified. The soil has been changed, and then food is refined. Now, when you talk about refined food in particular, I mean, if you look at the 4 big things that we eat on a daily basis, we eat flour, we eat sugars, we eat oils, and we eat grains. And all of them are now ultra refined. And when you refine these foods, not only do they lose their micronutrients, they also become inflammatory. They become foods that increase inflammation in the body. So not only are they not giving you nutrition, they're also increasing inflammation, causing other forms of malabsorption syndromes to occur. So you have food which is low in nutrition, and whatever little nutrition it provides also is not bioavailable because it is keeping your gut inflamed. It's keeping your intestines not in the best robust condition. Yeah, we can skip this one, please. Let's go to the next one. So what has changed in the plate, in what I eat from what maybe our grandparents eat or people 70, 100 years back ate? Do you know that sugar mills only came 70 to 100 years back? There was no white sugar available 100 years back. In fact, the first time people bought white sugar, you needed a pharmaceutical prescription to go and buy it from a pharmacy. Similarly, the dairy that we consume does not come from a person who owns 3 or 4 cows. It's coming from a farm which is industrially being run. The animals, of course, we'll talk about that later also. Our fruits are no more seasonal or indigenous. Our vegetables are no more seasonal. We sometimes tend to eat vegetables just because we remember them and forget what came as a part of the ground seasonally. Our spices are not hand pounded or freshly ground. It's not alien for Indians to pick up our own spices and actually make them at home. But how many of us are able to do that now? Similarly, the staples that we eat are no more. The wheat and rice that we eat as a large part of our staple food is not what it was, what our grandparents ate. In fact, the wheat that we eat now is a different plant altogether. It used to be a small grass and it's a larger plant now. Similarly, the rice, which is highly polished, it's not that brown or red or black rice that we grew up or that our ancestors grew up on, or unpolished rice. The rice we eat now is the white basmati, which is highly, highly polished and milled. Let's go to the next one. So just think about this. Yeah, can we go back, please? So thank you. Just think about this. Out of this, how much do you consume? Are you eating any of these millets even once a week or twice a week? Do you remember when you were younger in North India, we get a lot of things like stone fruit, amla, ber, jamun. How much of it are we eating now? Castor oil, which used to be one of the oils that was used as a laxative also, is no more a part of our cooking. Homemade cow ghee, of course, there's a lot of talk about ghee now. Forgotten berries like falsa and kokum a lot of seeds that we used in our regular cooking. Flaxseed, alsi was something that across India people used, and now of course we're getting back to it. Coconut, so red rice, black rice, unrefined sea salt. One of the things that I want to point out to is the salt that we eat. The white table salt that we consume, do you know that that's not the type of salt you should be eating? That's highly refined and processed. In fact, the sodium chloride, which is there in the salt, is not the only nutrients required by our body from the salt. What we require is many more trace minerals which are present in natural salts. For example, pink Himalayan salt, sea salt, black salt, rock salt. So remove the table salt from your table and get back to natural salts, unrefined salts. If you remember, when we were younger, we used to get these small hillocks of dirty salt that were cleaned in the house and then pounded to make coarse salt. That is the salt we require to get the micronutrients and the iodine, which a lot of us are of course deficient in. Let's go to the next one. Few things about some of the really powerful foods that were part of our own systems. They were there. Jamun is a diuretic, which is Indian blackberry. It also is one of the richest sources of anthocyanin, a pigment which is not found so easily in fruits and vegetables. The color purple is a very unique color and gives a very specific form of phytochemical called anthocyanin. Similarly, amla, which we don't eat so much now, is one of the richest sources of vitamin C and the most bioavailable form of vitamin C, which is also not just an antioxidant, it's also highly anti-inflammatory. Millets, of course, have all forms of micronutrients, so minerals, vitamins, B vitamins are present in plenty, something that again a lot of us are low on. Then things like I was trying to tell you, I don't know whether you've seen a bale fruit, but it's a stone fruit, and if you open it, there's a orange or a orange, sort of a light orange sort of a pulp inside, which is packed with laxatives. One of the easiest ways really to get rid of constipation is to have bale juice every day. You just dilute that with little water and drink it down. And it's also very tasty at the same time. And it's also a source of many micronutrients. Our plate has also changed. I mean, look at what you're eating and compare it from what maybe people a generation before or two before you were eating. I mean, our carbohydrate content has gone high in such a big way. I mean, studies show that we're eating 4 times more simple carbs than people 50 years before us. Our fat consumption, the good fat consumption, has gone down. A very, very poor example of this really is anecdotal in nature, which if you remember in your families, people would have like a bowl of ghee with the food that they would eat, and they would keep adding that ghee as visible fat to their food. Seasonal vegetables, herbs and spices, millets, things that I'm repeating, of course, but very, very important. Whole pulses and lentils. When we say dal, we eat moong dal, yellow moong dal, and yellow, arhar dal. That's really not the form of dal we require. We require whole lentils, pulses, legumes, which are not polished, which have the husk intact, the bran intact. Dairy, of course, we spoke about. And the other bit is that industry has developed a lot of a mechanism wherein they can keep fruits and vegetables stored for many months without allowing the enzymes to get activated, which are called the deep freezes, of course. But when you store them, although the fruit may come out as fresh, the nutritional value, the phytochemical components, the active antioxidants in them have almost either died away or reduced drastically. So that's why we're nutritional deficient. But what's more important to understand is that nutritional deficiency is not just vitamin C deficiency. When there are nutritional deficiencies, they not only make us micronutrient deficient, they predispose us to cardiometabolic conditions. To begin with, cancer, something we're all very scared of. You know that if you're low on vitamin B12, folic acid, vitamin B6, pyridoxine, these things can cleave your DNA. They can change or cause mutations in your DNA structure, causing tumors to become more proliferated, causing cancerous growth to happen, breaking those double bonds in the DNA, the glutamine bonds in the DNA, the deoxyribose nucleic acid that is there. It has double bonds, and those break when there is oxidation or when there is a micronutrient deficiency in the body. This is similar to radiation, and this can cause more tumor proliferation and more cancer growth in the body.
Ma'am, 8 minutes to go.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, so if you look at can we go ahead? Yeah, these are just couple of very good studies which show that there is a huge amount of cancer linked to micronutrient deficiencies. That these are larger studies, and all forms of solid cancers have been associated with micronutrient deficiencies. One of the larger ones is colorectal and colon cancer, which is very common in developed countries now. Let's go ahead, please. Yeah, can we move the slide, please? Yes. The next one, please. Yeah, thank you, Karishma. Also, another thing that's really plaguing us is hypertension. So I just quickly wanted to talk about how what we eat can make me hypertensive or prevent hypertension to happen. Now, there is something called magnesium, which is a micronutrient. A lot of us are deficient in magnesium. In fact, it is such a common deficiency like vitamin B12 and D3. Whoever checks for magnesium typically comes out magnesium deficient. What happens is when you're low in magnesium, it increases the sodium calcium levels in the body, reduces potassium levels, increases oxidative stress, causes changes causes vasoconstriction, which is essentially constriction of your vessels, which is the coronary arteries, causing you to have higher blood pressure or circulating blood pressure, which we call hypertension clinically. So just magnesium deficiency can predispose you to hypertension. The next one, magnesium deficiency can also predispose you to diabetes. That is why when we treat diabetes and hypertension in functional medicine, one of the very, very important nutrients that we add on to the patient is of course magnesium, not just as a supplement, but also through food. For example, some seeds are extremely rich in magnesium, and they can be easily added to the diet of a patient. The next one. Another thing that is highly dependent on my nutritional status is my immune system. Everything from the adaptive immunity to the basic innate immunity is all dependent on your micronutrient on your micronutrient status. For example, not having enough vitamin D does not allow you to make enough B cells and T cells. Vitamin C, of course, we know is required for all the pathways of adaptive immunity, the B cells, the thymus cells, and the bone marrow cells to be formed, and their proliferation. So your immune system is also highly dependent on your nutritional status. Yeah, we can skip this, please. A couple of two very important hormones, testosterone in males and progesterone in women. Both of these are driven by your nutritional status. So being nutritionally deficient causes men to have low testosterone, and if you see in the next slide, women to have low progesterone levels, both of which are our main hormones that not just drive our reproductive, sexual, and gonadal functions and libido, but they're also required for your muscle mass, for better health, for regular menstruation to occur, and these are both governed by your micronutrient status. So being low in nutrition also does that. Thyroid, another one. A lot of thyroid, let me dwell on this very quickly. A lot of thyroid is typically treated in conventional medicine by using something called levothyroxine, which is a synthetic form of thyroid, which is given as an add-on to people who have low TSH levels. Whereas the reason primarily for low TSH could just be low magnesium and zinc. Low T3 could just be low selenium or low tryptophan. Another reason, of course, for thyroid insufficiency is autoimmune. A lot of people have autoimmune thyroiditis, but for those who don't, They can also have micronutrient deficiency driven thyroid disorders. And these should go back and be corrected by actually taking care of those micronutrient deficiencies, because adding that synthetic levothyroxine is really not the right way and will never treat a person. He'll just keep on eating it without any of the symptoms changing. The bit is that even when people eat that, the TSH levels may come down to normal, but the signs and symptoms of thyroid don't go away at all.
5 minutes to go, ma'am.
Yeah. So neurotransmitters, again, very important for people who feel extreme anxiety or depression, or they feel extremely low on energy, mentally not stable. There is a reason why they do that. That's because they're a micronutrient deficient. And dopamine, noradrenaline, serotonin, all our feel-good hormones are made by nutrients. So if there is a deficiency, as you can see, the pathways then get disrupted. One of them is also tryptophan. That is why tryptophan also allows people to sleep better, when we allow people to have foods rich in tryptophan or give it as a supplement. Yes, let's go to the next one. So let's look at the solutions now. Now that we've talked about the fact that there are nutritional deficiencies, why do they happen and what can they cause in our body? Let's look at solutions. The first solution is correcting your gut health. If you have any gut issues like an irritable bowel or constipation or acid reflux, do not just ignore it. Get it treated by changing your food and whatever else is required to take. Managing stress, for example, could be one of the things. So getting your gut in place by eating slowly, not gulping air, eating anti-inflammatory foods, replenishing the gut microbiota by adding on the right probiotics and prebiotics, eating mindfully are ways for the gut to get back to normal. These are just some examples of probiotics and prebiotics. These are prebiotics, and the next slide shows you some of the probiotics that you could add to your food every day. Let's go ahead. The other part of the gut, just the gut health is also, as you know, Deepa also mentioned, correcting the leaky gut, reducing the inflammation in the gut, and certain things like aloe vera. There is a herb called slippery elm, which literally lines or creates that lining, mucus lining in your gut. You know that just hydration is so important. 80% of your mucus is water. So if you're not drinking enough water, also the gut is not healthy. And of course, good fats. What good fats do is they're rich, or they provide something called short chain fatty acids, butyrates, propionates, acetic acid, which allows the gut lining to get healed. Another very important way of correcting micronutrient deficiencies is not eating. I know it sounds contradictory, but when you don't eat, you allow your body to heal. You allow your nutritional levels to improve, because better enzymes are made, better assimilation and absorption of nutrients happen. And also, when you follow a fasting routine, which is aligned to the circadian rhythm, then your utilization and of the micronutrients to make the right hormones and proteins and tissues also happens in the right way. The other thing is, of course, looking at your food, consume. I mean, this has been said enough, but even then, go ahead and consume, instead of dals, legumes and millets. Instead of wheat, eat the millets and the whole lentils and beans. Add good fats. Add nutritionally dense vegetables, powerful vegetables, seaweeds, dark green vegetables, cruciferous, Chinese vegetables, a lot of good food like soups, broths, smoothies. When we have a sick patient in our hospitals or ICUs, we give them even paya soup, which is bone soup. So these things can be part of our daily diets also to keep us really robust. Look at your food. Is it clean? Is it organic? Make your own dips, make your own little herbs and spices and concoctions in your home.
Ma'am, time's up.
Yeah, we just have one last slide. Can you skip to mindfulness? That's the last slide, please. Yeah. So just before this, please, just look at what you're doing with your food. Just put your phone away, shut down your television, eat in a quiet place, listen to your hunger cues, eat 3/4 of your appetite, and try and only eat when you're hungry. And let's finish with this. Is this how you eat? If yes, then the chances are you'll be nutritionally deficient. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing the information on nutrition and how it is so important in managing any chronic disorder, may it be a practitioner or patient himself or herself. Thank you so much for your insightful session on the same. Thank you.